Greetings everyone. Let me preface this video by saying that most of what you see on social media is either performance or change. The potential to make changes in the world using this media or outlet is phenomenal. But I want us to remember that this is the opportunity for many people to grow their business, to grow their brand, to make money. And so when we, support them by viewing their videos, we have to understand that it is very important not to become emotionally invested in these ones, because they are doing what they need to get their, come up. And even as we are entertained or we are learning from some of these ones who put a camera in front of their face and show you their life, the parts of their life they wish to share. You don't know these individuals, as I don't know you, you don't know me. And as I censor what I want to share with you, for the most part, whether it's performance, whether these individuals are saying we're change makers and we are here to make a difference in the world, at the end of the day, we're dealing with human beings. And as such, don't have great expectation from anyone. Have it for yourself. Okay. Now I'm going to do a little review of the Latoya and Adam situation. And I'm not going to get emotionally involved in this. I'm just going to share what they share. And throughout this, analysis of this video as it relates to these two individuals, I have my own personal opinion based on what they share. Or I might surmise or draw some conclusion based on the information that they put out there. Having said that, please understand that I recognize these two individuals as business savvy people. Okay, so while they're putting this out here, I can assume this is the truth, but at the same time, I can say to myself, these guys know how to use the camera and how to share their life or their story, and at the end of the day are wealthy. Maybe not wealthy, but they are financially okay. Okay, and so there is no meltdown as far as this video is concerned. Someone was saying, well, how are they relevant? And I was trying to explain to the person that they're relevant because, the Latoya, for example, is a mom and she's a wife and she's a business person. And their story is interesting. People love to hate people for whatever reason, and they're individuals who are so loyal and so dedicated to these strangers that they will come out and they will defend them as if they know them. So, these people carry a certain level of power with them, not always influencing, people in the best ways, but it is what it is. And so I was asked to do this review. I did a little questionnaire on my community chat, and there are a few persons who says yes, I would like to hear, and some are saying I don't care. Well, I'm here not necessarily to please everyone, but if I think it's interesting or important, I will touch it. Now, my daughter introduced me to Latoya Forever channel a few years ago, and since that time she stopped watching, and I have not watched religiously. I watch it from time to time. There are times when I watch or follow family for whatever reason, but usually when there's a pregnancy involved, I am always for that. And so I'll watch for a period of time, and then the baby starts growing and I'll move away from it. I'm not 100% dedicated to any channel. I love to support black channels because I get to control what I see, and I'm far more interested in the black story than I am of any other story. So if you're thinking about a perfect situation with perfect people from other places, and I glance on that once in a while, I'm far more interested in what goes on in my own community. And so if you ask why you're watching these people, that's how I control my so-called entertainment, or how I go out and do my research to see where people are at, what they're thinking about. I have a degree in sociology. I like people. I like to study people. I like to examine, what they're doing, what they're saying, to understand where we are as a community. Anyway, first and foremost, I'm going to start with the first question on one of Latoya's interviews that she did to talk about her divorce. And one of the questions was, what was a breaking point for you to pack up and move out? Everybody has a breaking point. And if this is true that they got a divorce and their relationship fell apart, it always starts out with residual things that occur over the years. And then there is this breaking point. And so she says it's the pandemic. She says that her husband was not there for her and that he didn't care for her. He wasn't in love with her and she wasn't in love with him. And then she says he was there for the financial gain. And so I want to talk about those contradictions, because she on different occasions talked about how her husband pleaded with her to work out their relationship. And she says that, he's not there for her. But at the same time, she's saying, she was going through a bout of depression and that she had to, at one point, allow Adam to take the lead because of this postpartum depression or different times when she had anxiety. The next question is, why did your family move to Atlanta? And she says her business in Toronto wasn't growing, and that although her husband Adam had reservation, he went on board to support her dreams. And therefore, there's a conflict there. You can't say he doesn't care for you or he wasn't there for you, and yet you're saying he didn't want to go, but he did because he knew how important it was for you to go to Atlanta to get to your dreams of being on television. And then she asked, what happened after they moved to Atlanta, and this story comes out, that she pretty much stepped out of her marriage, and, even though she did that, Adam got past it. Now, when we say people get past things, no, sometimes people are rational and they're like, let's keep this business. Let's not get emotional about this stuff. And so he was able to get past, her infidelity. Now, this, based on what she said, it's more than one on more than one occasion. And what is disturbing is we get to the point now where Adam is now putting a restraining order on Latoya. And I find that part to be very sad, because here it is, these two young people, on the internet doing their thing, making money, securing something for their children. And they go to the United States to get things growing and popping and getting better for them financially, and build a house, and now it's supposed to be a home, but it's nothing, it's far from that because of all the things that are happening behind the scenes. The husband ends up putting a restraining order on Latoya when he finds a tracking device in his vehicle and uncovers that she's having a conversation with someone who is encouraging her to get a metal for her protection. And so he reported the situation out of fear for his life. And so now you got this young lady who seemed to be doing so well, and all of a sudden, husband finding text messages that makes him uncomfortable, and she begs him to drop this restraining order because, she wants the opportunity for her to work out her marriage after being on sort of the run, trying to avoid getting served with this restraining order. Her husband then changes his mind and allows her to come back home. But after she gets back home, she says that, officers came to the house looking for her, and she feel like she was being set up by her husband to fight for them to find her and arrest her, or something to that effect. Nevertheless, the story comes up that officers were coming to the house to look for her because she was reportedly, being held against her wish. It is very clear at this point that when she went back home, in order to get him to lift his restraining order against her, she then wanted to get something that she could use against him in court. That kind of manipulation, it's sort of dangerous and very scary, if you ask me. I mean, this is gone way past soap opera. I think sometimes these folks can't tell the difference between reality and fantasy. And in between there is danger lurking with some of the stuff that these individuals are willing to go through for fame. So, I think the plan was to have the husband arrested, but it went left. And so Latoya felt Adam should be the one to leave the home. But after they go to court, it is ruled that she has to leave the home because then she seems to pose a threat to herself and perhaps even to her children. There's so much contradiction in her back and forth because she said she felt controlled, yet she's able to go on a cruise. And while she's on a cruise, she has an affair that he finds out about before she comes home. And she clearly confirms that she checked out of the marriage years prior to divorce because they had no connection. And that is believable. That's understandable. A lot of time when people get divorced, that divorce, happens years before it actually happened. People usually check out before they get to the point where it's over. And especially when you see people moving on so fast, as is the case with Latoya, moving on, she needs to give herself time to heal because it's very clear that she's definitely having some emotional problems. Some of the stuff she says in her interview seems strange and seems conniving, to be honest with you. But at the end, she also needs help. I can see that clearly. Emotional help. Adam, that is, clearly support her dream. But he himself seemed to be disconnect with her for a long time. And as he always says, she doesn't know how to disconnect with the real life and social media hype. She wants it so much. She loves the attention so much that she's prepared to do anything, go anywhere, and lose anything in the pursuit of that. So I'm going to make my observations here. And I'm trying not to be taking sides because I'm just speaking on what they say. And I'm going to make my observations here with questions, though. Leaving you with questions to think about it, to say, yes, their stories relate to many of us. We can relate. From my observation, it's clear that there's alcoholism involved. There was abuse on some level, and emotion. There's not this abuse doesn't necessarily have to take place physically, but emotionally and financially and all of that. There is depression. I would never deny a woman when she says I'm depressed. And it would seem like she's saying that to get sympathy, but I would never do that to a female. If she says I'm depressed, who am I to say she's not? It's clear there's infidelity, and on Latoya's case, it seems like she's the one who has, stepped out of her marriage a few times, but that doesn't mean that Adam hasn't. He's just not caught or confessed to it. And definitely there's gaslighting. It's so disturbing to see, how black families are just always not focusing on all the right things. And so we find ourselves, in all these broken marriages and broken relationships. And, it's just not getting better. And the children suffer. We're not remembering that the kids are the one who are most affected by it. The questions are, what are these players hoping to achieve? Before you get emotionally involved in all this, think about what they might be hoping to achieve before you get all sentimental and all obsessed with their lives. And these are individuals who are masters at using a camera as part of their performance. And as they share their parts of their lives with us and become very wealthy, we can't afford to become emotionally involved in their stories. And the question also is, where does truth meet lies? Because in every grain of truth there's lies, and in every lies there's a grain of truth. So you have to understand this. Where does reality meet fantasy? Does fame bring you peace? Because the more fame you get, the more notoriety I am finding out. And will it ever be enough when someone has the appetite for constant attention? in those case, or in that case, people who always want attention, it's never going to be enough. And oftentimes when you want all this attention is because you're feeling a void, a sense of emptiness inside. So all I can wish for these two is happiness, and I hope that they work it out for their children's sake, and that you or I don't get so emotional in this whole situation, because they're married, they're a family. At the end of the day, they can go back to the drawing board if this is real, and work things out. They're here about securing their bag, and even when they're falling apart, they are still making money. They're still doing the do. Okay? And so while it's unfortunate, I'm not surprised by it, because none of these families on the internet, all of them are falling apart. Stay blessed, everybody.